Cole Kmet and Rome Odunze have comments that they made recently about the OTAs and the minicamp for Caleb Williams and how competitive he is. And we've got a Bears player that we're going to be relying on big time coming into the 2024 season that hasn't showed up to OTAs, hasn't showed up to minicamp. We don't know exactly what's going on yet, but fans are now calling for him to be released. Conveniently, it's one of the guys that we've been talking about, and this could be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting how this plays out over the next little while. If you like this type of content, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, bell to be notified. Make sure you hit that like button because it helps me out tremendously, and leave a comment letting me know that you're a Chicago Bears fan. So there's 5 things that we're going to be monitoring during the mandatory minicamp right now, and let's get into some of it right now. All right, so first, we do have a guy that did not bother to show up. You know what? We're going to skip forward a little bit. We're going to cover this because I think this is actually more important than anything else. Nate Davis has not showed up to mandatory minicamp, nor has he showed up to any of the OTAs. So, Nate Davis, TJ Edwards, DeMarcus Walker were in attendance, but they were held out of team activities. However, Davis did not show up yesterday for mandatory for the mandatory, and people are kind of having a problem here with what's been happening. So, per Zach Peterson with the Bears Report, Nate Davis was the second non-participant at practice. Davis also missed practice during voluntary OTAs. It's unclear when he will. It's unclear when the offensive guard the Bears signed in free agency last offseason will rejoin practices. He missed much of the Bears offseason and started the season last year because he was dealing with the death of a family member. It's unclear why Davis has missed so many opportunities this offseason, but given how he played last season, he needs all the practice that he can get. And this has caused fans to say, I'm so done with Nate Davis. We're starting to get a little bit of pushback here. I said it then, and I'll say it now. Nate Davis is nowhere near talented enough where he deserves to have excuses made for him. His leash should be pretty short, actually. Sign depth ASAP and have them compete. Make it clear to Davis that it's anyone's job. Well, you know what? That's what Coleman Shelton is here for. I don't think people are understanding. Coleman Shelton's already here for that purpose. Ryan Bates already here for that purpose. So it could happen. And by the way, it's $11 million on the Bears payroll right now. Cut Nate Davis. Nate Davis is turning out to be the worst offseason acquisition, worse than Chase Claypool. The Nate Davis stuff is just irritating at this point. Easy to see why Mike Vrabel isn't a fan of Nate Davis. He will be replaced soon. Send Nate Davis to the moon. People not happy. And again, this is Nate Davis is number 7 on the team in salary right now at the guard position, $11.3 million, right? So most people, those of us who support Nate Davis, look, he went through a tragedy last season. It's an unexpected tragedy, and he had a difficult time of it. However, he also has a job to do. And look, if my family passes away, my employer gives me a period of time, and after that period of time of processing, then I have to come back to work. Why is Nate Davis an exception to this? How can you not do the physical pieces that go along with it? And look, I understand when it happens at an inopportune moment or an inopportune time. I'm not without sympathy, but I mean, let's face it here. This guy needs to work. He needs to put in the time. He needs to put in the effort. And if he's not willing to do that, Connor Williams is out there at a cheaper rate who would come in to do that. Coleman Shelton is already here, and he would do that. We could sign somebody cheaper or less expensive to do the backup. I mean, this is $11.3 million on a team at a position of dire need for the Chicago Bears, and this guy's not living up to the expectation that the fans rightfully have of him at this point. So, what are you to do? So it's a question that we're going to be asking for a little while until we get some clarification on what is going on with Nate Davis. But there's 5 things that we need to be monitoring for after the Nate Davis situation. Number 2, Caleb Williams is building momentum. Now, this is what we're getting out of mandatory minicamp. Updates coming out of OTA were scarce, seeing as the media was only allowed at 2 of the Bears practices, but it was enough to paint an up and down 2 weeks for rookie Caleb Williams. In the first week, he struggled through the defense, throwing numerous incompletions and failing to get into a rhythm. Last week was a different story, though. He was on point in the team's final OTA practice, completing 13 of 15 passes during 7-on-7s and taking command of the offense. It was a much different practice than what took place a week earlier, and it has many feeling more confident about the direction of the offense. So we're starting to get a big feeling here that maybe, just maybe, he's starting to get it. So that's a really cool point, and a really interesting dynamic to add here. Caleb Williams starting to feel it, starting to feel that that whatever you call it, he's starting to feel it. Next up, full strength wide receivers and defensive backs. Now, on offense for the OTAs, we didn't have Keenan Allen. Odunze missed the first week with a hamstring injury. So we really haven't seen everything that we could. So now that practices are mandatory, we're going to get a clearer picture of how each side is going to stack up. Can Keenan Allen, Odunze, DJ Moore, Tyler Scott, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet, and Gerald Everett beat up on Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, Kyler Gordon, Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker. Kevin Byard, by the way, look at me. He's out here telling people, like, look at me. I'm going to come here. Look, I think he's got something to prove. It's really good. It's really good to see. Whether he can or not remains to be seen, but it feels like it. Now, how will offensive coordinator Shane Waldron integrate Keenan Allen into this offense? Well, guess what? Before we move on from there, Keenan Allen is annoyed already by the Bears defense. So the Bears defense gave him a taste of what practice would look like for the next 3 months yesterday on June the 4th, and he did not enjoy it. One was because of how good they were, and the other one was because of all the trash talking that they were doing. They look, according to Keenan Allen, they look like a top 5 defense. They sound like a top 5 defense too. Defenses are annoying, especially at practice. You just hear them every time they make a play. It's a hooray celebration. These guys are running up and down the sidelines, so it's very annoying. This latest iteration of the Bears defense is starting to resemble the group during Lovie Smith's peak years. They're tough, athletic, intense, and not afraid to talk trash. They're very talented, and they know it. Each position group has at least one Pro Bowl caliber player. Couple that with a defensive head coach with a great motivational skill like Matt Eberflus, and this is the result. Keenan Allen thinks it's great that he's in this position going against this defense because it's going to get the team ready for the season, but he is not liking what he sees out of the Chicago Bears defense right now in the best possible way. Next up, the center position continues to be a hot topic for the OTAs. Through 2 weeks of practice, the Bears rotated centers Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton with the starters to give both players reps. The Bears acquired Bates in a trade with Buffalo and signed Shelton shortly thereafter. Bates has started during the first week. Shelton took over in the second week. Minicamp isn't going to provide the answer as to who will become the starter, but it does provide some clues as to which way the Bears are leaning. Does Bates or Coleman get the first crack? Either way, Matt Eberflus sounds like he's ready to give them both ample opportunities. And then Gervon Dexter's development. This is a big one right here. You can make the argument that outside of Williams, there isn't a player more important to the team's success than Gervon Dexter. The second-year defensive tackle is being counted on to take a significant step in his development this year, and the hope is that he becomes the team's long-term solution at the 3 technique. Dexter has reportedly slimmed down and is looking to be in great shape. His impact on the line could make or break this defense. Minicamp is hardly the place to judge it, but based on seeing Dexter's improved speed, quickness, and strength, this is going to be a positive development. If he can become a game wrecker in the middle of the defensive line, it would create ample opportunities elsewhere and turn this defense into one of the best in the league. And I do have to say this, Andrew Billing busts through that line. He's strong. He makes every play, doesn't take plays off. Montez Sweat, we know what Montez Sweat brings. DeMarcus Walker, we get what we get with him. This is going to be an elite run-stopping defense. How this works in the pass game, that's going to be really on Gervon Dexter, because guess what? You can't double team both of them on the same side of the line. So if Gervon Dexter and Montez Sweat are both stacked over there and they're both unguardable in pass protection, something's going to have to give, and what will give is the offensive line and the quarterbacks. So this is going to be an interesting development to see how this plays out. And, it's certainly going to be very, very, very interesting. Now, with that, Cole Kmet had some comments about he went to Top Golf with Caleb Williams, and he told this story about it. Bears tight end Cole Kmet spoke to reporters on Tuesday about Caleb Williams' insane competitive nature and shared a story to illustrate that trait. Kmet explained that they had gone to Top Golf for an outing after practice and stayed there until 1 a.m. because Williams had to finish the game. Kmet was quick to note, I beat him. The selling point of Top Golf is that it's fun and casual, but not to Williams. He wanted to win the Angry Birds target game so badly, he stayed several hours past closing. These are the sort of anecdotes that fans will hear plenty of at this time of the year. It's a staple for the hype season. Nobody hesitates to share these kind of stories because they want to say nice things about their rookie teammates. Sometimes it's a nice thing to come. More often than not, it's such stories that are forgotten once players step foot on the field. But Bears fans will find out for themselves soon as we watch this practice unfold how well Caleb Williams is and what this looks like. So shout out to Cole Kmet. Certainly interesting that they're hanging out, getting to know one another, getting familiar with one another. If you have not been paying attention to it, you've seen Caleb Williams hanging out with Keenan Allen. You've seen him hanging out with DJ Moore. You've seen him hanging out with Rome Odunze a lot. And you've seen him hanging out now with Cole Kmet. You see he's going out of his way to ingratiate himself within this team and in this structure so that he's accepted. And then if he's accepted into this early on, then that builds camaraderie and teamwork, and that allows for him to do and relax a little bit and do the things that he's supposed to be great at. So shout out to Cole Kmet. And not to be outdone, Rome Odunze now says that he thinks that Hard Knocks might be too much for Caleb Williams to handle. Chicago Bears rookie wide receiver Rome Odunze has voiced that what most of the players and the staff are thinking when it comes to Hard Knocks. The general consensus among the team is that training camp would be more productive without the added distraction. As a matter of fact, they're filming right now. The Bears, I think they're doing like the pre-show or whatever it is. The Bears were selected last week by the HBO hit show after being one of 3 eligible teams. Hard Knocks is a documentary reality show. The documentary follows a selected team through its training camp and preseason, covering all the preparation for the upcoming season. Every season, a new team is selected, but finding a team willing to participate became impossible by 2013. This is when the NFL announced they would mandate participation. The Bears, like many teams, had no interest in being on the show. Odunze had this to say regarding the Hard Knocks selection. I think for me, I'd be definitely more comfortable not having Hard Knocks in the building just because we're all learning the new offense as rookies. Caleb has a lot on his plate already, so learning the offense and growing within the facility and setting a foundation for ourselves. So it would be something that, if it happened, we'd take it and we would go forward with it and do the best that we could. But I think it might be a little bit of a distraction for what we're trying to accomplish. In a sign of maturity, Odunze not only thought of his own comfort as a rookie in training camp, but also the comfort of his fellow rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams. Now, if you remember, we talked about this last week. And when we talked about this last week, I said the same thing, that, this represents a distraction. The only people that really want to be on this are the people on the bench who are the people on the bench who are just looking for a photo op, if you will. And these guys are not looking for that photo op. So we'll see how they do it. I mean, you got to be a little bit savvy. You got to be a little bit in your own head, if you will. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. What's the interaction going to look like? There's some questions here. There's some questions that you would have here. How is Caleb going to react with Keenan Allen, with DJ Moore? How's everything going to work out between DeAndre Swift and Khalil Herbert? How are things going to play out between Caleb Williams and Tyson Bagent? What about Brett Rypien? Brett Rypien could be on his way out. There's and he just got signed, by the way. So there's a lot of questions that are going to be a focus of HBO on this Hard Knocks. So this is going to be interesting. Now, I don't think that it affects them too much. Here's the thing. If you've got the defense coming out with swagger already and performing at a high level to the point that Keenan Allen is like, damn, dog, like chill the fuck out. If you've got that already happening, then you're in a good space. Your team is definitely in a good space overall. So Kevin Byard, all eyes on me, baby. This team wants to be successful. wants to be successful. So I don't think Hard Knocks affects them too much unless there's something wild that happens, unless there's just some kind of crazy thing that happens and it gets blown out of proportion more than it should be. But here's the thing. The one thing that we've had that's been a problem for the Chicago Bears for a long time, is leadership and that sense of camaraderie. Reports that keep coming out of Hallis Hall. And look, I don't know if it's a hit piece against Justin Fields or what the case is, but people are now making statements like, it's just more relaxed over here because you never knew whether Justin Fields was going to be happy or sad or how he was going to be when he was here. And he was always up and down and in different headspaces all of the time. Every day you get here, Caleb Williams is excited to be here and ready to work hard. And it's very different than what was happening with Justin Fields. Now, that belies, I want to say this, those reports that are coming out, that belies a lot of the conversation that a lot of the different players have had about their dealings with Justin Fields. If you guys remember, DJ Moore took very well to Justin Fields. A lot of these guys, Cole Kmet, a lot of these guys were real big fans of Justin Fields and did not like, even Jalen Johnson, they did not like the fact that Justin Fields was gone. So why is it that everybody loves Caleb Williams, but also he's a distraction, he's a problem, he's up and down? You know what I mean? Like that we know the inconsistency. The inconsistency we already knew was there. But what about the headspace? What about sometimes he just comes in all negative? Sometimes he's fine, but it's just weird. I don't know that that's really, I think that I think Crimson's got it right. It's just revisionist history, sour grapes, if you will, where people are just saying what they think people want to hear to get past whatever it is. Maybe that's the case. So anyway, it's going to be very interesting to see. And I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated to watch it. I mean, listen, whether you like Hard Knocks or not, 18 Emmys. I mean, this is a show that people pay attention to. This is a show that does what they do very, very well. And again, I told you there's going to be a focus. There's going to be one person who's the focus. I think it's going to be Tyson Bagent. I think that like he makes a great story. I think, he's coming from Division II. He's trying to make the roster. He's trying to prove that he's a serviceable backup in the NFL. His dad is an 18-time arm wrestling champion. He's a very passionate, religious, devout individual. There's a lot to unpack on Tyson Bagent. So that might be the guy. Karan Amagaji being the local kid, that also represents a really interesting sort of dynamic that you could probably mine for content as well. And there's going to be a lot of other players. Maybe the focus is going to be somebody who doesn't even make the roster. Wasn't it Johnny Newton? One of the Illinois guys. He was an undrafted free agent. He ended up signing, and he's still on a rookie contract. And I put down, shit. I just had the payroll numbers. Let's see what the payroll numbers look like. And we can get kind of an idea here of what it looks like. And anybody remember what the kid's name is? The John Jackson, we've got him. Micah Baskerville, Josh Blackwell. Anyway, sorry, maybe it's no, it's not Tommy Sweeney. There's somebody on this roster here that was an Illinois defensive tackle, something like that. Home kid. So he would also be a good one. And by the way, did anybody else see how hilarious it is that there is a defensive tackle on this roster by the name of Bill Murray? Are we really not going to talk about that? God damn it, man! You guys are no fun. Anyway, so there are some players. There are some players here that you could mine for content out of that. So we'll see how that unfurls. But yeah, interesting times. Now, one guy who's already apparently on the chopping block, and there's 3 of them that are on the chopping block right now. And we're going to start with number 1, and that's Brett Ripien. Already, the Bears made a veteran addition to their young quarterback room. this offseason and signed Brett Ripien. He spent time in the last couple years with the likes of the Rams and the Jets, but his value to a quarterback room these days seems to be less about what he does on the field and more how he helps the quarterback room off the field. He's a valuable extra set of eyes, but contrasting him with guys like Caleb Williams and even Tyson Bagent is going to be pretty staggering for most to see. If the Bears are to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster, Ripien will have competition because of the undrafted free agent Austin Reed, who might end up coming in here and supplanting Brett Ripien as a better option. So it's kind of crazy to think that, there's an opportunity here that we brought in Brett Ripien to kind of be that, stabilizing influence in the locker room. And instead, he might be on the chopping block. Also, Khalil Herbert, because of all the high profile moves of the Chicago Bears, including DeAndre Swift, um, the Bears also added Roschon Johnson in the 4th round. And look, Roschon Johnson looked really good in his rookie season, and he's probably going to get better in his second season, more than Khalil Herbert is going into his 4th year. So where does the presence of both Swift and Johnson leave Khalil Herbert? And of course, you got Travis Homer. Travis Homer is your best special teams player. You got to have him on the roster, unless you're going to give up your best special teams player. So that leaves what is going to go on with Khalil Herbert. Well, the answer to that is, to me, trade. I mean, it seems like he's your trade bait. But again, here's the problem: only $1 million contract. He doesn't have a huge amount of value for the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears actually better off at this point with $1 million contract, keeping him on the roster. Maybe doing like a close to mid-season sort of trade. But who knows? Khalil Herbert, look for Khalil Herbert to get moved. I think that Khalil Herbert will not be on this roster by the time the season starts. Also, probably on the chopping block, and it makes perfect sense here that this is most likely going to be the case. It's going to be one of 2 guys. I'm going to say it's Dominique Robinson, but also Jacob Martin. We don't need as many edge rushers as we have, especially edge rushers who are not going to be an upsell in getting in the team. The Bears took advantage of the Washington Commanders having a fire sale and got Montez Sweat. However, the other side of the line hasn't been that good, but we still need backups, right? DeMarcus Walker seems to fit in. DeMarcus Walker probably not going to be that superior pass rushing edge rusher, but he's going to be good. Now, if that is the case, then that means that you can't have Dominique Robinson or Jacob Martin. We know what we get with Dominique Robinson, and I do want to say this, that I think that when you base it on ratings, Dominique Robinson this is his 3rd year. He hasn't performed very well so far. And in some of the analyses, he's in the bottom percentile of the league at the edge position. So I get I would get the feeling that Dominique Robinson probably an experiment that needs to go away, if you will. And then when you kind of break it down, his contract, $1 million. So at $1 million, you can't have him or Jake Martin. One or the other has to go, right? Jake Martin probably has the best upside, though, and the best upside opportunity. Dominic Robinson probably already spoiled. But again, only $1 million on this contract. So, I do think it's going to be Dominic Robinson, because Jake Martin can play linebacker. He's also he can either play Sam or Will. So you know what I mean? Like he still has some upside as a spot substitution in linebacker. So I would take Jake Martin over Dominique Robinson, who just hasn't excelled and hasn't been given an opportunity to excel at this point. So we'll see what happens there. But that wraps it up, guys. I think we crushed this thing in a very short period of time. I don't know what's going to happen with Nate Davis. I don't know, what the next move is here. But if Nate Davis can't get any practice in, there are plenty of people that are waiting in the wings. There are plenty of free agents that are still out here and available. In fact, you know what? Let's take a second here and let's just kind of look and see, like, who is it that we have available. If we're looking at all statuses, we're going to say available. And then for the positions, we're going to go with, let's just go with guard. So from a guard position, we can say Coleman Shelton, we can say Ryan Bates, and they can supplant Nate Davis, if you will. But you have Mark Glowinski, Nick Gates, Phil Haynes. So you've got a few people that are out here that are potential pickups, inexpensive pickups too. Gabe Jackson, Max Garcia, Try Turner, Drew Forbes. So there are some people available. But if you expand just a little bit more and you move into the center position, then you get somebody like a Connor Williams or a Mason Cole, Scott Quesenberry. So there are some players out here who would be good pickups that would allow Coleman Shelton or Ryan Bates to be that guard if you have a pure center in that position. And if you're freeing up $11 million in your payroll, you're already $6.8 million over the salary cap before you make some cuts, then this could be a good opportunity to make an addition on someone like a Connor Williams. So if you take this out a little bit further and just go with the tackle position, then you've got David Bakhtiari, DJ Humphreys. We're not picking up Charles Leno. And matter of fact, we're probably not going to pick up anybody at 23 million or 17 million. Most likely, you're looking at somebody like a Donovan Smith here, a Cameron Fleming, Prince Tiga Wanago, Billy Turner. A substitute. So there are some opportunities here now. If you were to take this a little bit further and say, well, what about an edge rusher? Well, if we come over here to the edge rushers, then you still have Emmanuel Agba. It's just too expensive. Like, probably not gonna be able to fit him. That could be Nate Davis, could be the opportunity to bring back Yannick Ngakoue. And look, you may not like Yannick Ngakoue, but again, I do want to state for the record, I think that, that last season was kind of an outlier and that he is much better than what his performance looked like last year. By the time he started to come around into form, he ended up getting into an injury and he was out for the season just like that. But every season of his career has been 8.5 at least sacks. So until last year. So I really think that running it back one more time with him will not be a bad move. And the question is, will he take a pay cut off of 10.5 million? So there are some potential opportunities. Rasheem Green, no, we already know what we get with him. So there are a few players out here inexpensive that might just, that might just be some opportunities. So that's it, guys. Nate Davis, we'll see what happens. This is the second day of mandatory mini camps. We got one more day after this, and we'll get a better idea of what it looks like. Hopefully, Nate Davis will be out here practicing. We don't have an injury report. We don't have a reason to think there's anything wrong with him. He's just not practicing. So we'll see what happens. And until then, you guys bear down. Hopefully, this team will continue to improve. They will continue to improve their camaraderie. They seem to be really into each other right now, and I think that that's very important. Not that it'll last, but getting comfortable and familiar with the people around you, that is a big deal, especially in the NFL. You got to be able to trust your blindside guy. You got to be able to trust your guards. You got to be able to trust your center. You got to be able to trust all these people, right? And developing this rapport that allows for that trust is going to go a long way. And again, I'm not backing down. 13-4 Chicago Bears. And Rich Eisen told you, I told you before, I actually had a video I did but 2 months ago that told you the Bears were going to the Super Bowl this year. Do I believe that? Not exactly. That was more clickbait than anything else. I can make an argument and I can make a case when I look at how the season lines up that the Bears could be in the Super Bowl, but it is a massive, massive stretch that would require a massive amount of luck. And I don't know, because I don't really believe in luck. I don't know that we have the skill yet to have that luck, because I think that luck is just, if you do positive things, then positive things happen. I don't know that we're in that space yet where enough positive things fall into place where we look like a lucky team. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't know for sure, but we're going to find out. I'll let you know how OTA or how the mandatory minicamp goes tomorrow. Until then, bear down, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.